Okay, it is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, November the 9th. This is the Board of Public Works, City of Franklin monthly meeting. So we'll do a quick roll call. Commissioner Chairman, I'm here. Alderman Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Wozniak. Commissioner Witt.
Here.
Commissioner Skaronsky.
Here.
City Engineer Morrow.
Here.
Assistant City Engineer Beinlich.
Yep, here.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm always afraid. Highway Superintendent Schlater.
Here.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay, so let's start with reading and approval of the minutes from the October 13th meeting. Is that the right date? October 12th meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would suggest to you that in the last,
Yes, sir.
I would suggest to you that in the last time in reflecting the minutes that yourself was nominated to be chairman and Commissioner Skaronsky was nominated to be the recorder, pending approval of the nominations. Pending approval of the nominations. And I didn't put it as an agenda item this time, but maybe the minutes should reflect that after the meeting, both you and Mr. Skaronsky acknowledged that you would be willing to serve.
I'm not best approach to doing that because in terms of the meeting minutes of that particular time, it was still waiting for us to approve. So this was subsequent to the meeting that both Commissioner Skaronsky and myself said yes to that answer. So maybe in a public comment in this meeting so that it's noted.
Okay.
How does that sound? Let's put that as a public comment.
I will do that.
Okay. Does that seem reasonable to everybody on the board?
Yep.
I have my ways. Okay. The meeting, maybe a motion then to approve as presented with the public comment period to note that Commissioner Webster and Commissioner Skaronsky both accepted their elected positions. Commissioner Skaronsky both accepted their elected positions of chairperson and board recorder.
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Wozniacki has made that motion. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Commissioner Porter.
And
Commissioner Porter.
And
All of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any nays? I will abstain.
Same here.
Commissioner Skaronsky will also abstain. And you'll have to, Skaronsky will also abstain. And you'll have to forgive me. Commissioner Witt, were you part of that, member of that time? I wasn't here, so I wasn't sure if you...
Last month I was here.
He was here.
Thank you,
yes.
sir. I wanted to make sure.
Almost there.
Okay. Well, I want to say welcome to the...
Almost there.
Okay. Well, I want to say welcome to the board. I haven't got the chance to meet you or to say that, but let me get a chance to chat with you at the end of the night for a couple of seconds.
Thank you.
And welcome you to the board, and hopefully you can bring some new enlightenment to us. You can bring some new enlightenment to us on our board. Welcome. Public comment period. We have the one note that we're bringing over. Other than that, not hearing from anybody. It's 6:06. We'll declare the public comment unfinished item. Item 4A, which is the Adopt a Road program for the Franklin. You have this one?
I do.
Okay.
So this was in our packet last meeting. At least I introduced the topic. This was basically our city attorney had some comments, and then our insurance company had some comments. I made those changes, so hopefully this time you've had a chance to read the process. There's a application permit, there's a hold harmless agreement, front and back. There is a work plan and roads. We do have segments we can designate. We're thinking maybe not to exceed a mile segment for the city-owned arterials. The county and state, in theory, already have someone that they can adopt those from, but like Drexel Avenue, say from 27th to 35th, say from 27th to 35th, 35th. We can block it. We can chunk that up into mile segments, first come, first serve. And Mr. Schlueter, the cost per sign?
Right around 150.
So for a pair,
Right around
150. So for a pair of them, it's roughly 300, and of course that's the first time. Second time we would just there'd be like an upper sign, City of Franklin Adopt Road Program, and then we have a little placard down below. And so if second people that adopt it would do that. The per mech one, we make them actually, I forget how many times they have to do it, but they have to do it a few times before we actually would put the sign up. So if you have a group that wants to do it, we don't go out and spend all the money, put a sign up, and they never do it, kind of thing. So they don't understand, they're willing to keep doing it, then we would actually go through the effort to make a sign. We have a sign shop, we can make that. So I guess now that this is in your packet, I would ask that if you have any questions at all or any comments, or once this is concluded, I would appreciate a motion to council, and next week actually, and we'd get this program going.
Any comments from the board? I have some, but I'm going to hold mine back for a second. Anybody wish to address this one? Okay.
Well, I did look it over. I mean, are you looking for a motion right now? If you are, I would make a motion to adopt this, or to at least put it forward to
I think
recommend to council.
recommendation. Yeah.
You can,
perhaps it'd be worthy of discussion if there's discussion.
Okay.
I do have one comment and question. This was brought up, maybe not this particular program, but a similar, program was brought up, and we're talking maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and it was taken to PAC 539.
Okay.
It was something similar to this. It was Troop 539, I guess it
Yeah,
was.
true.
And Troop 539, I guess it
Yeah,
was.
true.
And one of the issues that we had at the time trying to say yes was the recognition that the members who were part of Troop 539 at that point in time, say 5 years from now, we didn't want to say to those members 5 years from now that we're committing you to doing this when you may have different wishes for things to do with your donation. So that's my only question on this whole thing. That's my only question on this whole thing.
So
And the reason I bring that up is because that was actually a question mark that was brought up within the troop at that time. And especially if you look at the troop from yours and my history with it, we used to do certain things. Every year that they don't do this right now because you have a different group of individuals running the troop. So, that's my question, my comment.
So I would suggest to you that we ask them to fill this out in ink, not in blood. So there is, the last page is notice of abandonment. So if Cub Scouts, whatever, if they were to decide someday that they just, it doesn't fit their schedule, or they're not interested or whatever, fill this out, send it to us. We also, I forget the exact details, but there is a procedure in there that if someone were to decide that, or if someone were to just quit showing up and they go for so long without. So.
Okay. So that was my only comment, and I wanted to bring it up. Is there any other comment from Commissioner Speck?
Yeah, my question would be in regards to safety. It states here in the policy that they're required to watch the video, but is there any test associated with it?
It'd be truly on the honor system. There is the DOT, and this is very, actually identical to how the Wisconsin DOT, they do this program, and MEC 1 just basically copies their videos. It is someone from the Wisconsin DOT did produce some videos, and they're on YouTube, so people can watch it, and they have to video, so.
And then in regards to safety gear,
They are required to provide their own. That is a little bit different than MEC 1. MEC 1 provided apparently all the jackets and flags and everything, and ours is a little bit different. I did, after talking with Kevin, this is an investment, so it would have to be an organization that's willing to invest a few bucks in safety vest and something to make sure that happens safely. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Porter.
Yeah, as far as safety equipment, that's usually a one-time thing also, because our snowmobile club does it out on Racine Avenue. And they bought half a dozen or 10 vests, and then every time they go out, they just issue them and they collect them again at the end of the event. So it would be a one-time cost to whatever group was willing to, put some time and effort into doing this.
Okay. Would this be administered, shall I say administered without a better term, by the engineering department then? I noticed that it gets returned to the engineering department.
So
Once you complete
it's
the form.
it's somewhat of a combination. So the majority of the work would be done by the engineering department. There are some things that I just have them call the DPW. So for the trash pickup, we have 3 trash bags located. This is us going through them, so just call them directly.
Commissioner Specht.
And it also references signs that must be placed on the side of the road. Will the city of Franklin be providing those to the groups or set them up out there?
No, we would tell them where they could purchase those signs, but
Okay.
We cleaned up this road, our localized club did it through Waste Management. Well, they gave us a donation, but they supplied all the safety vest, signs, and the whole works. So we went from 45 down to Loomis Road and all the way down to Highway 100, which we're going to do again in spring, but they provided everything.
Okay.
that is an option. We could do that, but this is not written that way.
I think I think we'll hold that one in our back pocket with our budget situations currently. I wouldn't recommend that at this point in time. Let's see what we have for individuals who, in organizations that might want to participate in such a thing. How would we advertise this out?
I wasn't planning to advertise it. I just figured word of mouth would get out. Obviously, like I said, we had the high school National Honor Society contact us. High school National Honor Society contact us.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Then I guess I would look for a motion to recommend to council to adopt the program as presented for the city. Recommend to council to adopt the program as presented for the city of Franklin.
Sure, I'll do that.
I'll second.
Okay, so Commissioner Porter will make that motion. Seconded by Commissioner Specht. Is there any other comments, questions? All of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? All of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that will pass. Then we'll move on to item 4B, which is the ADA curb trash service, which I believe was on our last agenda. Yes, go ahead.
So this one was included in the last packet. Those of you that were not in attendance, John's approached us. I shouldn't say John's approached us. John's was here last meeting and discussed this. So we've had some people, some residents, and we get a handful of phone calls a year. We traditionally said we just don't provide that service. there is a service that we put make it somewhat difficult to obtain this service, or at least keep it going. What they find in other communities is they find it's easy just to make a phone call to the city and they never have to take their trash out again. And it takes a lot of extra time. So manageable number of residents, but if it begins to be a thing where, 3 or 4 places every block, you got to stop and do it, it will affect our garbage rates. So we've written this as a policy so that people have to basically get a doctor. It's a policy so that people have to basically get a doctor's statement to say that they need it. We have to have the doctor certify that no one else in the home is able to do it. So say there's a family and they have grandpa staying with them, but the rest of the family is able-bodied to be able to do the service. They can't just, rest of the family is able-bodied to be able to do the service. They can't just say, hey, grandpa's living with us, now we get this free service kind of thing. So, and we have some places in there so that if somebody were to move away, we would catch that eventually, and because they wouldn't renew, and we would try to keep it to a manageable number of occupants that need the service, but it would provide it to the folks that really do need the service. So.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, Alderman Nelson.
I reviewed it. I like the part about the position, and you're going to jump through and show some proof. I think it's adequate, it's fair. I think this was the major concern that John's had, so I like it and I support it.
Okay. Is this something that they have to, you made a comment and I didn't catch it, so let me get recertified every couple of years, or it's something for them, or once it's certified, it's done, and then you made the comment that, it's recertified or it's whatever, every couple of years they have to renew it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I had that I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I had that same thought, and I believe it's answered on that first page. It says this exemption should be, and it says permanent, temporary, until month and year.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of puts something on it.
Okay.
But I guess my question, so it kind of puts something on it.
Okay.
But I guess my question on that is permanent. I mean, that's we should be able to say, well, could we, have a yearly update? I mean,
Yeah.
permanent, because we'll say now I sell my house to Becky. She's out to Jim, and it keeps going down, and it's like, well, the address is, oh, hey, cool little perk here.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be nice to have it that's come out annually or something, some little piece that, at a minimum, it's an annual. If it's permanent, annual verification or
Annual
something like that.
verification, Something. Yeah.
I guess I would say like the children crossing signs that we've talked about in the past. I have staff that will periodically call the folks and, do you still live there? Those kinds of things. So if they don't live there anymore, or the child has grown and moved away kind of thing, then we keep a master list of things to monitor, and that's one of the things that we monitor.
Okay. Well, that's only my question about it was, how do we handle that situation? So, Commissioner Porter.
No, and I agree, that's a very legitimate question. And my question is, would that add more workload or burden to the current staff if we're just throwing another thing in their cart,
So I would say this, that the city is informed, don't ask me exactly how that process works, but whenever property changes hands, we would have to maybe put some flags to when we do a new water account, so Mr. Porter owns a home, he gets a permanent exemption, but we find out that Mrs. Speck is buying the home because wants a new water account. Maybe that'll raise the flag and we check against our master account. Maybe that'll raise the flag and we check against our master list.
Well, and I get the water, I don't have water, so I mean, that wouldn't change, but I mean.
And what's that like?
Well, you know what I mean.
Tell us, Glenn, what's that like? That water?
Wait a minute, you know what I'm saying. I don't have city water. So
I know, I don't know.
that account would, Is there something,
Do I do?
is that common to every house in that?
Actually, no. now I
No,
think
because
about
there's
it.
some houses in Franklin that have
There's
septic
less sewage than
systems.
there is water. Yeah.
So I mean, well, the tax bill would change, every,
Perhaps, yeah, we'll have to find out a way to put a flag in the system.
yeah, okay.
Good thought, though, that's,
I don't have any other questions or comments. You kind of answered my concern. I guess I'm looking for a motion to recommend to council, either yay or nay on this, on this service. I personally think our staff, I think it's an okay thing if it's John's willing to do it. I will say this, I remember when John's first came here, I remember we had them and Waste Management come in, and there was a third one. I don't think anybody. Veolia.
Yeah.
Yes, on the board at the time, and they all came in and gave us a presentation, and one of the things that John's talked about at the time was that, oh yeah, people think that, we're great, we take the trash cans back, and over time, that kind of lapsed. But they made those comments back at that time in the day when for a number of years.
I think you're excellent.
I think they're excellent too. I'm just, so.
just so you know, I've been told that we will have to bid out those services again this next cycle. So we'll probably be going through that process, RFQ, RFP again.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking for a motion either to recommend to council to either adopt or not adopt this program, to it be through the city engineering department and John and our pickup and our pickup contractor.
So move.
Second.
So, moved by Alderman Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Porter. All of those in favor? Seconded by Commissioner Porter. All of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. We'll move on to item. I got my October one here, and I keep reading off the wrong one. The Franklin PPI policy, again, something from last meeting's agenda. Glenn and I had a little discussion about this after the meeting, I raised some of my own personal concerns with this concept. Not saying I'm not for it, I'm just saying I had some concerns. Is that a reasonable comment, Glenn?
Sure.
Okay. If you want to refill us in, and maybe people can have a conversation about this.
Yeah, so Commissioner Speck did a good job last time. She's very intimately familiar with what we're trying to do. This is her area of expertise at MSD, and we've been working to address something. So as a refresher, the city collects a lot of money each year to do some kind of program like this, basically to address private property inflow and infiltration. So we had a discussion last time on what PPII was. I passed out this, and there is specifically one section I'd like to look at today. There's what I call affected parties or prioritized properties versus the voluntary properties. We can have that discussion. But in essence, how this is work is we, the city, would try to target areas that we suspect would be more apt to provide or have private property I&I, and we would do that based on maybe the drainage basin where we experience the most problems. And then once we identified the basin, we would identify the age of homes, starting with the oldest homes, and work our way forward. Last long enough, we would systematically eventually address all the homes in Franklin. In reality, this program probably will end sometime in the future, but hopefully that'll get us to a point where we're all to the homes that are, what I call modern homes, where things were built with modern codes and having said that, this program would be open to anybody. So if you have a home that is not what I call a targeted home, maybe you live in a different basin, or maybe you know that you have a problem, you can call and ask for an inspection. So this program would pay for the inspection. We would come to your home and we would actually send an inspection. I forget what I called them in this policy, but we have a different name for an inspector, but it would be separate from our inspection department. So this person would go into your home, look at your sump pump, downspouts, those kinds of things. Make sure that basically we want to make sure that clean water is not getting to the sanitary sewer. So when it rains, we don't want to overflow our list. Through the process, and you're inspected and your home is good, we give you the thumbs up, seal of approval, and we have actually, we even talked about giving you like a little certificate to make you feel good, or at least something you can put in your file and know that your home is good. So if I go to buy your home, this is something you can pull out and say, look, my home is, as far as providing inflow and infiltration to the city, and that's something you won't have to fix if you buy my home. So that's an idea. But probably the big benefit to the residents is the fact that going through this process would get you into a process where you could get grants, if you will. I'll call them grants. Get grants, if you will. I'll call them grants that would help pay for the problems that need to be fixed. And we're going to model it after what MMSD does, the pipe check program, very similar process that basically you go through. So if you have, 1,000 assets that basically you go through. So if you have, $1,000, $2,000 fix, we might pay $500 or $1,500 or whatever the number is based on the defect and what needs to be fixed and how it gets fixed and all that sort of thing. So that basically is it's a nice service to the community. And basically it's a nice service to the community. And the thing that makes this program a little bit different than what everybody else is doing is we're not requiring you to fix it. So if I go into Mr. Skronsky's home and we get inspected, or actually, first of all, if I send you Mr. Skronsky a notice and say, we'd like to come inspect your home, first of all, if I send you Mr. Skronsky a notice and say, we'd like to come inspect your home, he says, nah, I don't want to do it. That's fine, but we're going to charge a convenience fee for that privilege. So it's like an extra $5 a week is what we're looking at doing. So it's roughly double your sewer bill, and sewer bills aren't overly expensive, but we would use that. Roughly double your sewer bill, and sewer bills aren't overly expensive, but we would use that money then to put back into the program to fund the other things that we're doing. So if we do inspect it, and then depending on what we find that's wrong, we would have a time frame, appropriate days or a year to fix it, whatever the issue is. If you get it fixed, great, and we can go through a plumbing permit, and we'll check you off and good to go, and hopefully you got a bunch of money from us to help fix, reimburse you for part of the cost. If for some reason you're just don't want to find the time, $5 a week, and that will proceed until if and when you do decide to get it fixed. But it's something that will eventually get everything fixed, and it's just really a huge problem, and just seems like a nicer way to do it as opposed to going in and requiring everybody to let us into your house and that sort of thing. That some communities have to go, and I'm not saying Franklin, but I will say that there is a lot of discussion. I'm not sure what the chances are this year or next year, but there is a lot of discussion at MMSD that actually I saw a presentation at APWA. Your executive director was having that discussion that it's really not fair for executive director was having that discussion that it's really not fair for communities that are tight to be paying for systems for, if you will, communities that aren't taking good care of the wastewater. So the thought is and it's picking up more voices each year, that someday we might get better sewer rates if we were to make sure that we have tight pipes as opposed to leaky pipes. So that's a discussion. Of course, all the communities have to come together, and I'm not saying that's anywhere close to passing, but it does get discussed a lot, and it's a very real possibility sometime in the future. I think that's their spec. If she has anything else to add.
I could put on a 4-day course on PPII, so I'll try to keep it brief. We are in the process at the district of starting a rate study, that will be starting next year, that will reassess how we are setting the rates and how we charge for sewer treatment throughout our service to make sure our systems are tight and our residents are providing their systems to be tight and removing clean water from the sanitary sewer system. What do we get for making sure, that, for the benefits of doing a good job versus the other municipalities who have high levels of infiltration and inflow conveyance systems. All of that extra additional clean water that gets into the sanitary sewer system is additional water that we have to clean, which costs money for treatment and the conveyance systems. And it also puts a higher risk of the residents within those municipalities to be impacted negatively with basement backups, reduced service, which can be costly to those homeowners.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, but does anybody else have some comments before I go off?
You're gonna go on.
I'm not going to go off.
I have
You're gonna go off. I'm not going to go off.
I have one comment.
Go for it.
You were.
Commercial reporter.
The word inspector could possibly be substituted for auditor.
I believe the phrasing that we used was clear water evaluator.
Okay,
And that's really what water evaluator.
okay.
And that's really what we're going to be looking for when we do these inspections in the homes, is we're looking for sources of clear water that is getting into the system from the private property. So we're really going to be focusing on, are your foundation drains still connected to the sanitary sewer? Do you have a sump pump drain still connected to the sanitary sewer? Do you have a sump pump? Is it plumbed properly? And under current building code, you're not allowed to discharge it into the sanitary sewer. However, you know what? That's fine. We're going to get it fixed underneath the pipe check program. And we just want to remove the clear water. And then also that inspection of the sanitary sewer lateral. Most people have no idea the condition of their lateral, and they don't think about it until you walk into the basement and you walk into 3 inches of sewage. So, and that's another huge source of clear water that gets into the sanitary sewer system. So really, those are the sources that we're looking at that create the largest impact. Oh, and downspout disconnects. Like, if it's not quite as prevalent in the city of Franklin, but there was a time when the best way to deal with your downspouts was to connect them to your sanitary lateral. Wet sections of your yard, which that's not really allowed.
Mm-hmm. So, my first question is, who decides who gets a letter?
So,
If you, let me clarify. And I didn't give you a chance to let me clarify. Doesn't like me, so he goes over to Glenn and he says, Glenn, send him a letter, I don't like him.
No.
I'm just saying, things happen in this world.
So I can tell you, to answer your question, I can tell you the first round is going to be the St. Martin's Lift Station tributary area. So we know that St. Martin's Lift Station during heavy rains, pumps crazy amounts of water that's clean water. We need to clean that up. So that's going to be the focus initially. Within that basin, we're using our GIS tools. I can list, and I've got a spreadsheet somewhere that lists all the homes from oldest to newest. So I'm going to start with the oldest homes in that basin and start working my way towards the newest homes, basins that are connected to sanitary sewer, and start working my way to the newest homes until it comes to a point where we're not getting a good return. Looks like we fixed enough things. We're not finding more things to fix. Then, and part of what we're doing is I have other consultants that are working on to prioritize all of my basins. So once basin number 1 appears to be in fairly good shape, we're going to prioritize and go to basin number 2. Between 1974 and 1978 are our worst cases. Maybe we'll target those homes, or there's various things that can trigger. It's a methodology, but it won't be go rat on your neighbor kind of thing. You can voluntarily ask for your home to be done, but you can't tell on your neighbor that their home should be looked at.
Okay, that was just answer this one a little bit better, and it's a discussion I had with Mr. Morrow here on the phone after when I wasn't there at the last meeting, and this has to do with, there are some communities that still have storm sewer.
Combined sewer.
It's called combined
Sys-
sewer systems.
Combined sewer systems.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that this is not a bad idea to go after those things that we can comply, but let me ask the question this way. When you go through your let me ask the question this way. When you go through your reevaluation and you have communities, say Franklin, Greenfield, Fox Point, or whoever it may be, that are implementing these types of programs, comparing to, because one of the major communities, has a lot of clout in the area. And how much, say, does your, reevaluation of the rates for a community, does this type of a program have, or would it have? Does that answer the question well?
Yeah,
And I think you're the only person here who can answer that, or maybe
Well, Dave
can
too.
Dave can too, I guess.
So there are,
Dave can too, I guess.
so there are only 2 or 3 communities at this point that are in the combined sewer area. That's one is the city of Milwaukee, and another is
I'm
Shorewood.
being nice, I'm not naming.
Yeah, well, I am. Because I just deal with the facts that are on the table. And not all of the city of Milwaukee is combined
Correct.
sewer. And not all of the city of Milwaukee is combined
Correct.
sewer.
Correct.
And we take a look at combined sewer sheds differently than we do separated sewer sheds. And they have different expectations for SSOs and CCOs.
What are those terms mean?
Combined sewer overflows and separated sewer overflows.
Thank you.
So we don't different scenarios, different modeling techniques, different situations. However, we are actually requiring homes within the combined sewer area to disconnect their downspouts and from the sanitary sewer unless there is a health or safety concern. Green infrastructure in those areas to start reducing the amount of I&I going into our sanitary sewer system.
The
with
term
something that's more
I&I?
inflow and infiltration.
Thank you. I'm sorry, you throw words out to.
Not a problem.
And I'm going to ask the questions.
and it's fair to say that the folks that live in those neighborhoods don't get an option to pay convenience fees. They go knock on the door and that's a requirement.
Yeah, the downspout disconnect
Thank you.
is a requirement that those homeowners have to do by a certain period. I believe it's 2035 it needs to be done by with everyone.
This has been going on for quite a
Done by with everyone.
This has been going on for quite a while.
Well, it was just implemented in 2016 as a requirement of the district. And having to roll it out through the municipalities, getting out the inspectors in order to do those assessments, help homeowners decide, is there a health or safety risk? It's a lot of work, the educational
Yeah, the
period.
education side is busy.
And there's just a lot of homeowners in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And and I'm assuming that there's a lot of homeowners that don't live in the home they own too, I'm assuming?
well, in each community that can be
That, it can be
the
true in
case,
any
too.
community.
Exactly.
True. Okay.
So, we don't look at things the same, and we are doing our efforts to remove clear water. From the sanitary sewer system in both types of scenarios. But you have to look at each community independently to see what is impacting their sewer systems and how we can be effective in reducing the risk to homeowners, and to be appropriate with the costs it takes to do operation and maintenance of our facilities, and for the municipalities to have to do the same with their collection systems.
You have a question mark. A few of my questions that I kind of initially brought up with Glenn.
And when we
I have a lot of personal issues with this policy, this type of a policy myself, and never use, convene,
Yeah, Glenn,
I'm sorry,
So-
that's why I see it.
So we did, because that was one of the common council's first comments, and there is a, Alderwoman Hanneman is actually on our committee, so we had a long discussion after it appeared at common council of, hey, this is just going to be, I guess what we need to convey is the fact that it's either an option where you can pay this, or it's not an option, and we come in and we demand that we come in, and we, there are some communities around that basically it's pretty much a warrant. They get to come into your house, they ground that basically it's pretty much a warrant. They get to come into your house, they get to do whatever. And I can tell you that my history with these kinds of programs, because I started these back in Indiana, I'm guessing there's probably going to be 20%, maybe 30% of people say, it's not worth it to me. Don't worry. It's going to be 20%, maybe 30% of people say, it's not worth it to me. Don't worry about it. The $5 a week or whatever, it's just, they'd rather pay that. It's just, they don't want to do it. So in a perfect world, I'd like to do what I was able to do in Indiana, but Wisconsin statutes won't allow it. So you never have to do it until somebody wants a new water account. Well, long story short, the state of Wisconsin heard about the program because they were looking at MMSD. The realtors ran to the legislators, and they basically prohibited us from tying anything to the sale of a home, which is unfortunate because so this is a secondary way to do it, because that was the hammer that I had in Indiana, was you never have to do it, but when you want to sell your house, it needs to get done. And I found out that people fix stuff without even telling us. They just fixed it because they knew someday they were going to sell their house, a weekend, Home Depot, Menards, and got better literally within a couple years in the community I was at. So we do need some sort of a hammer. So if it's not, I guess the question is, what is the tax, if you're going to call it tax? What is the tax that is not burdensome, but yet insightful enough, not burdensome, but yet insightful enough to get people to actually act? Because if you don't have some sort of hammer, MMSD has issues that this is even going to work.
Yeah.
So.
Don't misinterpret my comment. Sometimes we use terminology to make something sound nice. Sometimes we use terminology to make something sound nice, and that's what convenience fee to me sounds like. It sounds
but
nice.
Conversely, a tax is not a fair, because that's
But it's
the other way. Yes.
It's you could call it the PPII fee. You know what I'm saying? You could call it the PPII fee. You know what I'm saying? It's something to explain it so people understand it. Alderman Nelson.
there's no question this is going to spark a lot of conversation. It's going to be a lot of pushback. Nobody wants the government coming in their house because it never pushback. Nobody wants the government coming in their house because it never ends well. It just doesn't.
I'm from the government.
And as am I. And I'm just saying this is going to be, this would have to be approached from a PR standpoint first to kind of explain things. And if I could put approached from a PR standpoint first to kind of explain things. And if I could put Commissioner Specht on the spot again, what was the terminology used for the person that comes in clear?
Actually, I'm calling it investigation consultant.
Okay.
You did? I thought it was a Clearwater consultant.
So under the PPII program, we're Clearwater evaluator.
Yeah, because Clearwater sounds wonderful, evaluator sounds wonderful. You don't want like a picture of Glenn saying, I want it in your house and here's my warrant, because, you know, small children will lose sleep.
So,
but what you're saying is, what I'm saying is I'm trying to say, if we as a city identified a problem, before we hammer our residents and citizens with another fee, tax, whatever you wish to call it, I'd be interested to find out what type of, because I'll put it right out there. I live in a home that was built either in 1947 or 1950, depending on which room you go to in City Hall, and could we get you to volunteer for this first before we go and try to hold them accountable? I would at the same breath rat out Commissioner Porter.
Actually, I was going to be the first one to volunteer.
And I would volunteer as well, and he's got a much newer, nicer home. He lives in the higher.
You are in the right basin too.
Right, so I mean, I'm kind of in your little wheelhouse with, but I'm saying is, I'd like to see, perhaps we move forward with a voluntary thing, or we look for people that want to volunteer first. This is gonna be ugly, and I think it's gonna have quite a bit of pushback, and for those that are paying attention at home, I'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But I would like to see some people, even all of us, volunteer first. I yield.
So, the comment about, the public education, we heard that very loud and clear when it went to Common Council. The direction we were given is engineers do a horrible at trying to educate people and trying to make things sound good. So we do, we spent some time talking to a marketing firm. I think it's probably the proper term for what they do, and to help us put together a program. And they had somewhat put together a program, and they had some somewhat humorous discussions on, the Superman cape. He's coming in to inspect, faster than a car from Illinois or something. I forget what he said, but it was with some humor, and they had a lot of good ideas on. It was with some humor, and they had a lot of good ideas on to implement. So as this goes to Common Council for adoption of this policy, we at the same time we're also looking to do a contract with Platypus is the firm's name. Contract with Platypus is the firm's name. They've got a lot of ideas, and they'll still work with us to massage some of these names. Try to make it sound better. They got some creative ideas on how to entice people. Again, we would love to have enough volunteers. So we talked about the voluntary property owners and in reality, I would love if everyone came as a voluntary property owner. That would be awesome. I'm guessing initially we're going to have a lot of volunteers. I found in other communities that people want to do the right thing for the same reason that people want to do the right thing for the same reason that people recycle, for the same reason that people, conserve water, those kinds of things. You will have a portion of this community that says, sounds great, it's good for the environment, I want to sign up, I want to do it, I want to make sure I'm doing my part. Fantastic. So we're going to hit those volunteers to begin with, but that will only get us so far. Eventually we'll get to the point where we're going to run out of that list of voluntary property owners, and there has been discussion trying to entice people, giving away, gas cards or maybe some stores, to the local pizza places or something like that. It's worth it. That's what those convenience fees will go for. Will help pay for those enticement things. That, for the most part, MMSD is paying for everything except for all of the marketing part. And the marketing part is something the city is actually going to fund with our local monies.
Mm-hmm. You bring up this concept of, a card, for instance, from the local restaurant or whatever. A lot of these local businesses and so forth would certainly probably. I'm going to speak out of hand for something I have no idea. I'm going to speak out of hand for something I have no idea about, but I would imagine that many of these owners would say, "Yeah, I'll make a donation of this, and maybe you pay for half of it, and then we'll pay for half of it, and pay for half of it, and then we'll pay for half of it, and we'll put a $20 card will cost the city 10. I'm just throwing an idea out, that type of a.
Plenty would.
I'm sure plenty would pull a stunt like that and go with it, and
Yeah, we've talked about that, and if this passes, that's one of the approaches that we're looking at. Because that's something else that's writing it into the funding agreement that MMSD has, is that you're incorporating local businesses and small businesses.
And
that's something
especially at this time when we've had a lot of our small businesses just raked over the coals in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be a good thing. Commissioner Porter.
And they might be some of the offenders we need to
Not
clear.
be included in the policy.
Oh, that won't be?
No, this is only
Okay.
focused on 1- and 2-family homes.
Oh, okay. Now, I have a quick question. It doesn't necessarily, What about water treatment equipment in homes, which also contribute a lot to not necessarily perfectly clear water, but like iron filters and water softeners?
The percentage of impact in comparison to some of these other sources based
Okay.
on our analysis.
Okay, good, thank you.
And those typically are water that comes from the potable water side, and they run through and they just return to the sewer. So it's, in my opinion, it's fair to treat everything that we sell them, so.
Okay.
So I have a question here as we move forward on this policy and this thing. Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to bring up some points here that were brought up during this discussion that I'd like to clarify.
Please do.
As far as the public outreach, we've, implemented various types of private property programs throughout Milwaukee County and our service areas. And we've found that public education for these programs. Because is it better to know the condition of your property, ahead of time instead of walking into the basement, on Thanksgiving morning and realizing you have 2 inches of sewer? So what is that value to you to have a better understanding of the condition of your utility? You could take yourself in for maintenance, and this is that assessment. And giving that education and knowledge to the homeowners is really beneficial. Also, in regards to the phrasing for the fee, in the policy it states here, it's an excess charge fee. So it's not a convenience fee, it's not an excess charge fee. So it's not a convenience fee, it's not
See, no, I like that. That's at
it's
least
an excess charge. And that was
I like
based,
that terminology.
and that was based and followed similarly to what they implement already for the water meter policy. Because if a homeowner does not allow the city to come in and replace the water meter, they get charged. So that's the same reason that we're implementing this. Also, there are municipalities that if you do have excess cleaner water being released into the system, they do charge fees. And then another example, your point of Milwaukee and what are they doing? Milwaukee actually has a program where they do sampling at their outfalls in the rivers. And if they find signs of fecal matter, coming out of their storm sewer systems, they start tracking it up into their collection system until they identify a neighborhood where the source is coming from. And at that point, they require homeowners to allow them to come into their home. And do dye water testing. If they identify that your home is one of the sources of the cross-contamination, you are told you need to repair your, whatever the issue is, within a set period of time. No financial help. $8,000 to $20,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
With this opportunity, we aren't telling them that they have to get it done within a set period of time. We're giving them an opportunity to delay it if they need to have some at a reasonable cost in order for them to put it into their budget. Also, with tying this in with the pipe check program, offset that cost of the work. Now, each community within the service area, the MMSD service area, only gets a certain portion. Under the other half of the private property program, each municipality gets a much larger bucket of money that they get to decide to do with to deal with I&I. As Glenn said, he's using part of that money from the program. What he didn't say is that the other portion of that money he is putting back into the pipe check program to give more of an opportunity to homeowners who are going to be asked to take corrective action to offset that cost. So we're giving them an opportunity to reduce that cost and have to give them time to get it into their budget to address the issue without forcing them like cities like Milwaukee are doing. One last point too is that if we don't have something in this policy that is the carrot that goes with the stick that goes with the carrot, the MMSD will not be able to support this program. The intent of the private property program is not to go do a bunch of investigations. We know we have a problem throughout the system. A significant portion of, actually more than 50% of our I&I is coming from private property. We know that's the problem because municipalities have a set maintenance program. They go in, they do maintenance to their sanitary remains. MMSD has a set maintenance program. We go in and do maintenance to our collection systems. We what utilities they own and get that clear water removed from the system.
Sorry. And
Mr. Morrow.
so one thing Commissioner Speck forgot to mention, we've been accumulating a lot of money. We've been using it, most recently Ross and Holmes, we had actually four different projects. It goes to other communities. So this is really the one
Actually,
that's-
sadly, it's going to be, it's going to most likely leave the private property program. And that you have over $1 million in Franklin that's
So
sitting here looking for a project to be done.
And I would really like to allow our residents to be able to use that to fix things as opposed to just giving it to other communities. So.
Commissioner Skoronski.
I'm sorry,
I got you.
I got a question. Like-
After Commissioner Skoronski first.
Oh, sorry.
So there'd be like a grant program for them to pay for these repairs?
Yeah, it's not a 100% grant program, but, and Becky knows that there's, based on what the issue is based on what the issue is how much things it would get reimbursed.
Leaky lateral.
So, so what they'll be doing is, they'll be directing any homeowner who needs corrective action work to the pipe check program, which is ran through MMSD. Corrective action work to the pipe check program, which is ran through MMSD. Each municipality has their own set bucket of money. Franklin would be funding that more. So the set financial incentives that we have are based on the repair technique that is being implemented. For your lateral. So if any situation where you end up with a brand new pipe from the home to the main, so that's your pipe bursting, that's your open cut replacement, that's your horizontal directional drilling install of your lateral, you'll end up with a $5,000 financial incentive towards that work. So what happens is that the homeowner does not need to put that money up front as long as they use one of our pre-approved contractors.
I was going to ask about contractors.
Yep,
You have
they've gone
a
through an
series.
extensive RFQ review, and through a committee that we have that's not just MMSD staff, it includes also representatives of the communities. And we've looked to make sure that they're a reputable company that has the equipment to do the type of work that they're being approved to do. And that financial incentive portion of the work. So for example, if you were told you have to replace your lateral and you're going to do it via open cut, your bill is $15,000. You will receive the bill from that approved contractor for only $10,000 because the district would pay.
Okay.
So you don't have to upfront that money and then wait for money from us.
Okay.
That also, and then for foundation drain disconnects, we provide $1,500 towards that work. And downspout disconnects are $25 per downspout, max 4. Now, if you look at a lateral replacement, a lateral repair technique like lining, where you're not getting a full brand new pipe,
Right.
we only offer a $1,500 financial offset for that work. So we have an extensive program website I can direct you to if you're interested.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Witt.
Question is, like, in this program, are you finding most of the problems in clay or transite pipe?
That is why Glenn put together this program, is that we're looking for homes of an older age, because pre-1954, it was allowed to connect your foundation drains directly to the sanitary sewer, and also the material type, as you pointed out, differed over the ages of the homes. So, we are going to be focusing on homes that are older, that have the,
Well-
now that's not to say that newer homes don't have issues, because we've ran into them.
Sure.
Where they were poorly constructed by a contractor. But we tend to see that being less frequent as the cities are more diligent with their inspection during new construction.
When you do this, you go right underneath the footing, right up into the, do they go into the basement?
The way the pipe check program is set up, we allow that decision to be made by the homeowner. It's their property. However, we highly encourage that they go into the home.
Go into it. See,
Right,
we did
because we see that there is a high probability of damage.
two jobs where we relay, like in Tulsa, and they give the homeowner the option of fix it now or not, the lateral. We go up, only up to the footing.
Right, and that's why we designed this program the way we did, is because municipalities don't want to take on that risk of going into the home, taking care of going in, not causing any damage. But with the pipe check program, the homeowner gets to choose the repair technique. The homeowner gets to choose from the approved contractor list. The contract is with the homeowner and the contractor. We're just the funding agency at that point that has some minimum.
Any other comments? I want the members of the board here to think about what form of a motion they would like to put forward, but I do have and this is only a comment because I'm basing it upon the conversation that we have had, yourself, Commissioner Specht, and also Commissioner Woznicki, as you've almost acted as an advocate for this evening.
I'm
And
planning on-
and I understand that.
I'm planning on,
This is the question.
I'm planning on-
And I understand that.
I'm planning on,
This is the question I'm asking. On abstaining?
yes, I'm planning on abstaining.
Okay, see, you understand my question? I didn't know if that was something that was, it's okay. So I'm just bringing it up because I wanted to make sure that everybody on the board was aware of the situation of where we were at.
We got a full now, we're fine.
Well, no, we're fine. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware. 'Cause I wanted to bring up the question. I was going to let you make your own decisions. Okay? So I am looking for a motion. I'm not going to state, okay? So I am looking for a motion. I'm not going to state what that motion is because I think that someone on the board ought to make a thought as to how to make that motion for themselves without my indication.
I'm gonna defer to Glenn for a little guidance on this one.
So if you're looking to like the project as presented, your motion would be something to the effect that you would recommend to Common Council that they consider implementation of this policy as presented, or if you want to make an edit in the paragraphs, or you can think about it another month. I mean, we are getting to the point where we really need to get this rolling, but understanding it really is a big deal, and understanding that last month we had virtually no discussion for having the discussion. So if you want to think about another month, that won't hurt my feelings if you want to hold on to another month. But if you're ready to adopt it as presented or as amended, make a recommendation to Common Council to implement this policy for private policy,
PPII.
private property.
I would be willing to make that motion. I support this, because I think we really need to kind of get off the pot on some of this stuff, and it's clearly a problem. No, I mean, it is clearly a problem.
Good.
They've been wrestling with it for decades, and I think the fact that they've
So
identified
as
some of the-
presented, or are you good with this policy as presented? Is there some amendments?
So wait,
amend. I personally I don't know enough about it to amend.
That's the issue that
Then
I
I
have.
could make the motion,
I don't know enough about it to amend.
That's the issue that I
then I
have.
could make the motion with the amendments.
so actually, if I may, I highlighted this in the beginning.
Oh,
I said I did
okay.
want some direction regarding these two issues because we had in our committees basically three different options. So I would like to know which option that you prefer. So if I could summarize them, in one scenario, I call them private property owners and involuntary property owners. Well, so we would use reasoning methods to target, I don't know, out of line here, someone's,
But as far as, don't you go ahead with what you're,
So I guess, so one concept, and it can be a blend of these, but one concept I had was we were going to be very clear on what we were targeting. So we were going to say, voluntarily would get the gas card. Folks that were basically, if we had to go through the effort to contact them with certified mail, they would not get the gas card, those kinds of incentives. So the thought is that we would prioritize a list of, say, the first 50 or some, we'd come up with a number, post on a website. That would allow someone to say, okay, I'm number 50 on the list, now I'm 46, now I'm 50, now as they work their way down, then they could volunteer at the last minute. That doesn't hurt my feelings. That would save us from having to do all the, official notifications and so forth. There was a concern, official notifications and so forth. There was a concern that possibly we may not want to have a list out there where it looks like my home is bad. It just means that your home is on the list to be inspected. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. But there was a concern that we wouldn't want to put this list out there. The converse to put this list out there. The converse is that you have no idea where you are on that list, and you just you get something in the mail someday. So I guess that's primarily the differences between the two, and I think the differences between the two, and I think the three. That's basically the difference between. I'm trying to remember if there's another difference between the two. So, do you guys have a preference on those, and I can reword it as
You
appropriate.
can clarify.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're looking, you can clarify.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're looking, I'll get to you in a second. It sounds to me, and if I'm interpreting your comments incorrectly, please do correct me, that possibly you are looking for, to put this forth, you are looking for, to put this forth as a volunteer base of the first 50 or 75 households to get this done, and then and do we have an idea of the number of
Our capacity to actually process people is going to be very limited because we can only do so many inspections per week, like evaluations. We can only do so many evaluations per week. Again, I am, in my mind, initially we're going to have enough people volunteer. We'll have probably 3 or 4 months worth of work before we even start getting.
We looked at we assumed that we could probably do 4 a day for a total of 20 a week, assuming we had a contractor that was approved through an RFP process that would commit at least one person full-time.
And is this something we're going to try to make for a homeowner who wants to volunteer to have you to get into the house?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not home on Thursdays, but I'm home on Wednesdays.
Exactly.
Okay. So,
So I guess I'd like some direction because there was a lot of discussion within our subcommittee as opposed which direction. Do you want to have a list out there showing how we're prioritizing or do we want to make it more of a black box?
I would think an area.
An area.
You
I
say,
like that.
we would like to focus in this particular area and that particular area. We would like to focus in this particular area and that particular area because those are areas that we believe that we have, that we can get the biggest bang for our buck. I don't know how you want to say that. Go ahead.
And I guess you look at like District 6. We've got, they'll probably want to list areas or whatever.
Yes.
And if you would put like one of our crazy plans we have where it's like different shaded circles in the city, and if you just identify certain areas that are where you want to go at first. I mean, I think that's what I would do to make it just like, here's your little zone or your region.
It won't be that confined because
I mean, you put the criteria,
yeah.
but then just say, so if your home was built between this, expect a knock on the door by.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, so go ahead.
Alderman Nelson, I totally concur with the idea of just doing a neighborhood and then who will be contacted in that neighborhood. One of the concerns that we brought up during the committee that we put together was how will the aldermen feel if we target one neighborhood over another? Because based on our capacity for this program, we can't just open the staffing, we don't have money. The most appropriate way to get the biggest bang for our buck is to focus on a neighborhood where we know we have a problem, where we can show that we can have an impact. That's part of what.
Boom, right there.
So
That-
you think that that's
that's
going to be
a good
taken
point. Yeah.
care of well?
Yeah, I think-
Well, it's still going to be pitchforks and, whatever angry people, you're like, you'll sacrifice us, thanks. But, I appreciate that. But I think the point you bring up is smart. You bring up, this is why, this is a problem, let's go to this neighborhood.
So I'm hearing we advertise the criteria we're using to evaluate.
Alderman, or Commissioner Porter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you a new job.
It pays really well.
But, that point, I think, is very important with this whole discussion, because if we do target a neighborhood or an area that we know has a problem, and we can resolve that problem, and I'm not saying you can resolve that problem, and I'm not saying you
I would-
particularly.
You can.
But if you have data a year out to support, we did this, this is what happened, and we have data to support the improvement, that's part of the sales pitch that you're going to put out to the rest
Yeah.
of the people. You're going to say, we really can make a difference with this. You're going to put out to the rest
Yeah.
of the people, you're going to say, we really can make a difference with this.
You are
and
one
it-
step ahead. We are working on that.
And I would use the term, the area that is most likely to have an issue.
Well,
I like that terminology a little bit better.
But they can, you can
Well,
see it.
yeah, that is very true. We already have a study.
A little bit better.
But they can, you can
Well,
see it.
yeah, that is very true. We already have a study completed in the
Yes,
St. Martin's
but
area.
from the perspective of, I'm speaking from the perspective of a citizen of Franklin. This, we're not targeting your, we just say, your home may be fine, but you have, we just say, your home may be fine, but you happen to have a home that fits the criteria in an area that is most likely to have a greater effect.
That is known to have high INI.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is a great point, Commissioner Porter, and that is one of the things that Glenn, Commissioner Porter, and that is one of the things that Glenn is tasked to show to the district, that this program can work and he can make an impact with his approach, because he is doing it very differently than everyone else. And we applaud him for doing it, but we have to also be fiscally responsible, and his
So-
plan is to reducing INI, so he is responsible to take a look at having a pre-post data analysis.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Morrow. Do you have enough comments back at this point in time to clarify
I
this
do.
information?
So maybe,
To refer this back to staff to clarify these areas of comment that we've made tonight and bring it back next month?
you'll come back next month? Okay.
Is that,
Okay, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
I'll second that.
okay. Is there any other comments or questions from the board? I'm going to end, but make sure that Debbie gets the information correctly, okay?
Just, so I would imagine that your motion would be to table, bring back next month with corrections as discussed.
Yeah, well, the motion, as I kind of stated it, was refer back to staff. The motion, as I kind of stated it, was refer back to staff to clarify the policies with the comments from the board from the evening and bring it back next month,
That's fine.
Yeah, yes.
okay? And that was made then by Commissioner Porter, seconded by Commissioner, or Alderman Nelson. All of those in favor, seconded by Commissioner, or Alderman Nelson. All of those in favor, aye.
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 And Commissioner Wozniacki, are you abstaining? And Commissioner Specht, are you abstaining?
Correct.
Okay, so then I'm going to read this off. Chairman Webster, Alderman Nelson, all vote aye. Commissioners Wozniacki and Speck abstain. And that motion will pass. Okay, we will move on to item 5A, which is the authorization to purchase new pothole patcher truck. And Commissioner, I remember doing this, and I thought, geez, it's been
Yeah.
recently, but it's not been that, I've been on here so many years, it might have been 1994. You know what I'm saying? So let's move on to that item.
So DPW is requesting to purchase one pothole patcher, sold or driven on the road. It's brand new. It's a
So
chassis
this
that,
is, let me clear this up.
Okay.
This is what we're talking about here is an item that has been approved to be purchased by the council in 2021.
in the 2021 capital, budget, it is in.
So it's, okay, thank you.
Yep.
So we are not recommending to council to purchase this, we are authorizing the purchase. Am I correct?
No, you're recommending, because I will go to council next with your approval.
But
Okay.
it's been budgeted, to answer your first question.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. I'm just,
It's been budgeted, to answer your first question.
yes.
thank you, sir. I'm just clarifying to me what we're doing here.
Thank you, John.
Okay, go on, I'm sorry, Kevin.
So it's a 2020, as I was saying, Kenworth chassis, brand new with a Bergkamp pothole patching unit on the back. It's a flameless unit, pothole patching unit on the back. It's a flameless unit. We have one now. It's a good unit. We are happy with it. So that's what we're recommending. And it's at 202 even.
202,000. So the 202,000. So the motion is to recommend to council to purchase one new FPS all-in-one flameless asphalt patching machine purchased from Bergkamp Incorporated, contract number contract number 052417-BGK, and the patcher to be mounted on the K370 series Kenworth cab and chassis purchased by Bergkamp Incorporated, Incorporated on behalf of the city of Franklin, Wisconsin, per the quote not to exceed $202,000. How's that sound? Thank you. Is there someone who wishes, how's that sound? Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
The only thing I just want to add is, just so you're all aware, they only have white. So normally we get orange, but this is going to be a white chassis,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Chassis,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Woznicki? So we have the motion as I read into the meeting minutes from Commissioner Speck, seconded by Commissioner Woznicki. All of those in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
The quick question I should have asked before I took the vote, but I'm going to ask it now, and that is, we are within the capital budget for our purchases here?
I have $202,100 left in my capital budget. So I'm within $100.
Thank you.
Make sure you don't get sales tax.
I'm just asking the question I should have asked before I did this, so. Okay, now we're going to go to item 5B, which is the review of the October auction results. That's also in our packet. We have a number of items in here that
So I'm just bringing this back as an information to you because you did approve the going to auction with the stuff, and we did, as you can see, I truly believe quite well the city did.
Side
Yes.
note, if you have any junk vehicles you want to get rid of, now's the time to do that. They're going very high.
The vehicles we got rid of, I mean, at the bitter end, and matter of fact, one of them, the 2006 Ford F-450, they broke down taking it to the auction, and then when they got it fixed, they couldn't get it started, so they ended up towing it. So that's, I mean, it's literally in rough shape when we get rid of our stuff, and these prices were just phenomenal.
The Intrepid, the mechanics.
wow.
So it's
Okay,
a motion to receive and place on file, and that's it?
so I'm going to put this as informational
Got it.
for the board, okay? And then we'll move to item 5C, and equipment. And that is also on here. There's a list of 5 vehicles. I'm assuming that we would go through the same auction associates.
Yes.
And so you're looking for a authorization to, do we have to put this through the council? How's this work? I forget.
No, this one we don't go through the council, with your approval.
Okay.
And then we report back to them. with
Um,
finance.
The only question I have, okay, so the 2017 Ford 4x4 from the police department, relatively new vehicle compared to most things we put on the list. And is this a replaced vehicle? It's out at me.
We take the, we take the hand-me-downs when it comes to vehicles. We don't really buy cars, so we take the police department's old ones. And if we can get a good year or two out of them, we take it. And this one has got some major issues, electrical issues and that. So we used it for the last 2 years, issues and that. So we used it for the last 2 years, and now we're just moving it on.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask. Any other questions from the board on any of these items? Commissioner Porter?
Yeah, I've got one question here. It says, there is no fee to the seller for auction associates to conduct this auction. But yet on the associates to conduct this auction. But yet on the previous report that we just accepted to put into the minutes, it shows an auction fee of $5,241.02.
Right?
What's the difference? What-
They, it's,
What's the difference? What-
they, it's a fee they claim that we don't pay, that the buyer pays, but yet they list it as this because they take it off of the price that, I agree with you, it doesn't sound right, but that's the way they word it.
So they,
Doesn't sound right, but that's the way they word it.
so they take it off the price that they got,
Yes,
which means we pay for it.
which means it's, yes, in a way we do, yeah. It's coming off the price.
It's
that
coming
we
off
went to
of
auction.
our proceeds.
It's their way of wording things, so.
Yeah, because the other auctions that I've been involved with, there's usually a seller's fee and a buyer's fee.
Up to 10% each way sometimes.
Right, and that's why it's kind of misleading the way that's being stated, you know?
I agree.
Okay,
I'll talk to them again about it. I
yeah.
agree, but I don't think they're gonna budge.
Well, I'm just saying,
Word it.
the statement is misleading, that's all that I'm saying, because if they're,
It's a great deal. We're getting strong money.
Yeah.
So the motion that we're talking about would be to authorize DPW to take the listing to auction associates to conduct, to sell in auction on December 11th, 2021. Anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Skoronsky, any second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Porter. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? That motion will pass. We'll move on. The City Franklin Code of Conduct Ethics for elected and appointed officials. We have that was left on our desk tonight on our cross spot with our particular named ones. It looks like this is something we have to eventually sign and return. Go ahead, Glenn.
So, first of all, I want to commend Chairman Webster, who runs. So I want to commend Chairman Webster, who runs the Board of Public Works. This is definitely not aimed at Board of Public Works. You run a very, very nice ship, and we're all cordial to each other, and you guys do very well. There's some other commissions that boards or council that may not be that way. So unless you're on another board or commission, so Alderman Nelson would not have one because he gets one through being on the common council. But the rest of you have at your plate, specifically one with your name on it. I'm going to ask that you take this home, read it over, and sign it. I want to give you a deadline for the next meeting, so whenever we meet next, I'd like to collect them. If you'd like a copy of it, you're welcome to stop by the clerk's office or the engineering department anytime and make a copy. I guess, or next time, just bring it and tell me you want a copy, and I'll run a copy for you. So there's a signature. Quite a year, probably a good 9 months or so.
At least.
And on this issue, and this is what they've come up with, and they want all boards and commissions and councils members appointed, as you see, elected officials and appointed members to abide by this ethics code. Probably the one thing, and you guys are really good at, I need to get better at, is using formal titles. So sometimes I may say Becky instead of Commissioner Speck.
I caught that tonight, and I caught myself.
I need to catch that.
Use my name.
I am trying to work hard on that, so, Commissioner so-and-so, and so forth. So use formal titles. I guess that's one thing I would illustrate. Probably the next thing is on page 6, be clear about representing the city or personal interests. So if by chance, say Commissioner Speck comes to Common Council when we talk about the PPII issue, she should identify herself as board member, public works member at the meeting. So other than that, I think of the rest of it is, for the most part, common sense, being decent to each other, not calling names and so forth. So again, this is not what I think most folks would consider the problem. Folks, that you guys have done a very good job, and I want to again commend Chairman Webster for how he runs the ship, and I commend each of you for how you act. It's nothing outside that's really startling, if you will. It's just like I said, it's for the most part common sense and being courteous. If you will, it's just like I said, it's for the most part common sense and being courteous. So.
Alderman Nelson.
I would definitely encourage that you read everything in here. You become extremely familiar before you sign any document, as you should. Extremely familiar before you sign any document, as you should. I'm not going to, put my point on, that's a personal thing, but just read everything in here and be aware of everything.
So, 2 questions for members of this, kind of following up on Alderman Nelson's comment.
Please don't ask if you don't sign.
What?
I said, please don't ask what happens if you don't sign. I don't know what that is. So.
Well, I was just going to say, if you don't sign, do you turn in your resignation? I read out of this, and that's fine. The other thing is, as in terms of what I'm going to put on this for information, there's no action tonight. It's information to review. Please review and sign and return no later than the next meeting. If we decide to before the next meeting, do we bring it to the engineering department? Do we bring it
Peggy.
over here to Peggy? Or
Director of Administration.
Director of Administration.
So, yeah, and by the way, if you have any questions at all, like if there's some paragraph that it's unclear to you or you have a heartache signing, I would encourage you, don't call me. To you or you have a heartache signing, I would encourage you, don't call me. Peggy Steno is the Director of Administration. Contact Ms. Steno and have that discussion of whatever the issue is. So. And again, I'm more than happy if you want to stop by City Hall. And again, I'm more than happy if you want to stop by City Hall and come down and have Debbie make a copy. We're more than happy to do that. So.
Okay.
I do think that I would encourage you to make a copy for yourself for reference, for future reference, if you should need that.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay. We're going to leave this at that point. Our next scheduled meeting would be the second Tuesday is December the 14th at 6 p.m. I don't think there's anything to ask for that. So currently we are at, 7:29. So, is there a second? Mr. Witt, would you like to?
Mr. Witt, get in there.
Make a motion to adjourn?
No, you have to do a second at this point. Because Commissioner Porter.
I say the second? I second?
Yep.
I second.
Okay, so Commissioner Porter, seconded by Commissioner Witt. All of those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.